On Thanksgiving, my stepdad blocked the door and said you're not family anymore, while my mum gave my seat to my sister's boyfriend. So I cut off the money, exposed years of lies and fraud, and demanded repayment of every dollar. I'm Jake, 29, and I own a construction company that brings in around $380,000 a year. Wasn't always like this, though. 5 years ago, I was working 80-hour weeks building this business from nothing, while living in a tiny apartment and eating nothing but cheap takeout. But I need to give you the family background first, because it's crucial for understanding why what happened was so incredibly devastating for them. My mom, Sandra, has always been a master manipulator who only cares about appearances and what she can get from people. My sister Rachel learned early that playing the perfect princess gets you everything in our house. While I was working construction jobs at 16 to save money for equipment, Rachel got a brand new car for her birthday. While I took out loans for trade school, Rachel's college was paid in full. Here's the thing, though. Once my construction business started taking off about 3 years ago, suddenly I became useful to them again. Not because they were proud of my success, but because I had money, they could guilt me into spending on their endless problems. The sad story started immediately. Mom's car was breaking down. It wasn't. She needed help with mortgage payments. She didn't. Rachel needed money for her interior design consulting business, which was really just an Instagram shopping addiction. I was stupid enough to think that maybe if I helped them financially, they'd finally treat me like real family instead of the black sheep. Man, was I wrong about that. The more I gave, the more entitled they became. Mom started expecting monthly payments, like I owed her for raising me. Rachel would text me screenshots of expensive items she wanted, like it was my job to buy them. My stepdad Jim, who hasn't held a steady job in 3 years, would make snide comments about how some of us work with our hands while living off my construction money. But here's what really got me. They talked trash about me constantly behind my back. I found out because my cousin Tyler, who's basically the only decent person in that whole family, would tell me what they were saying. They claimed I was showing off with my success, that I was getting too big for my boots, that the money was probably going to my head. Meanwhile, I'm literally paying Rachel's BMW payments and Mum's cosmetic surgery bills. The breaking point started building around October last year. Rachel had been dating this complete loser named Chad, typical unemployed wannabe influencer who thought he was going to make it big on social media. Real winner. Right. Well, Mom absolutely loved this guy because he kissed up to her and told her how young and beautiful she looked constantly. They started talking about him like he was already part of the family. Mom would go on about what a positive influence he was on Rachel, how he was helping her grow as a person. Translation: he was telling them exactly what they wanted to hear while living off Rachel's money, which was really my money, if we're being honest. Then came the Thanksgiving planning group chat. Usually I'd offer to bring something expensive or host at my place, since I had the space after my business success. But this year felt different. All the messages were about Chad, what food he liked, making sure he felt welcomed, how excited they were for him to meet more family members. Nobody asked what I wanted to contribute. Nobody seemed to care if I was even coming. I was just expected to show up and probably pay for half the groceries like always. That's when I started paying closer attention to what they were actually saying about me when they thought I wasn't listening. And let me tell you, once you start really paying attention to how people talk about you, you hear things that make your blood run cold. I should have seen the warning signs, but honestly I was too focused on a massive commercial project to notice the family drama building up. My construction company had just landed this huge contract to build a shopping complex, and I'd been putting in 16-hour days to make sure we delivered everything perfectly. The Thanksgiving group chat had gone quiet on my end, but Tyler was keeping me informed about what they were saying in their private family chat, the one I wasn't included in naturally. Apparently, Mum had been telling everyone I was getting too full of myself, and that Chad was more down to earth than I was. Rachel had been posting constantly on social media about how excited she was for Chad to meet everyone, how he was the one, all that nonsense. Meanwhile, she hadn't asked me a single question about my life or business in months. The only texts I got from her were requests for money or photos of things she wanted me to buy. So Thanksgiving morning arrives. I'd been up until 3 a.m. reviewing blueprints for the shopping complex, but I still dragged myself out of bed, stopped by the expensive grocery store, and picked up a $150 wine bottle and some fancy appetizers, because that's what I always did. Tried to buy my way into their good graces. I drive the 45 minutes out to Mum's house in the suburbs. You know the type. Trying desperately to look upper class, but everything's just slightly tacky. The kind of place where image matters more than substance. I park behind Rachel's BMW, the one I've been making payments on, and walk up to the front door. Through the window I can see them all gathered around the dining room table. Mom Jim, Rachel Chad, my Aunt Karen, Uncle Mike, and several cousins. They're all laughing, passing food around, having what looks like a perfect family moment. I ring the doorbell instead of just walking in like I usually would. Something told me to test the waters first, and man, am I glad I did. Jim opens the door and I swear the smile drops off his face, like I just told him his dog died. Oh, Jake, you're here. Not hey or come in or happy Thanksgiving. Just that flat acknowledgement like I was some unexpected door-to-door salesman. Yeah, I brought food and actually we need to talk. He steps outside and closes the door behind him. Look, Sandra and I discussed it and we think it's better if you don't join us today. I blink hard. Sure, I misheard him. What? You've been really negative lately. Always complaining about work, acting like you're better than everyone else. Rachel's boyfriend is here meeting the family for the first time, and we don't want any drama or tension. I'm standing there holding expensive food and drinks, and this unemployed guy who lives off my money is telling me I'm not welcome at my own family's Thanksgiving dinner, complaining about work. Jim. I've given this family over $45,000 in the past 2 years. His face hardens. See, there it is. Always throwing money around like it makes you special. Chad doesn't do that. Chad's humble and grateful. That's when I hear them through the door. Mom's voice loud and clear. Is that Jake? Tell him we already gave away his portion. Chad was so hungry. Poor thing. Then Rachel. Good. I was worried he'd make some rude comment about Chad not having a real job like he always does. Then Chad himself. Don't worry, babe. Some people just can't handle other people's happiness. He's probably jealous of what we have. They're laughing, actually laughing about me standing outside my own family's Thanksgiving dinner like some unwanted stranger. Jim crosses his arms. Look, maybe next year you can join us if you work on your attitude, but today just isn't going to work out. I stood there for probably 30 seconds, just processing what was happening. Not angry yet, just shocked. Like when you get sucker punched, and there's that moment before the pain hits, where your brain is trying to figure out what just occurred. Then I did something that surprised even me. I smiled calmly. You know what, Jim? You're absolutely right. I have been negative lately. Thanks for helping me see that clearly. I handed him the expensive food and drinks. Give these to Chad. Sounds like he's got quite an appetite. I walked back to my car, got in, and drove exactly 1 block before pulling over. That's when the rage hit me like a freight train. Not just anger, pure, white-hot fury. The kind that makes your vision go blurry and your hands shake uncontrollably. These people had been using me as their personal bank account for years, talking trash about me behind my back. And now, they were literally choosing some unemployed loser over me because he was better at kissing up to them. But here's the thing about rage. If you let it sit for a minute and really think, it transforms into something much more dangerous. It becomes crystal clear focus and determination. Sitting in my car, hands shaking with fury, I got extremely clear about what needed to happen next. I sat in that car for about 10 minutes, not thinking about revenge or getting even at first. I was thinking about patterns, about how long this disrespect had been building up, about all the warning signs I'd ignored, because I desperately wanted to believe they actually cared about me as a person. Tyler texted me. Dude, where are you? Mom said you decided not to come, but that doesn't sound right. I called him instead of texting back. I'm sitting outside your aunt's house. They literally told me not to come inside. What? That's completely insane. Why would they do that? Apparently I'm too negative and might upset Rachel's boyfriend with my bad attitude. Tyler was quiet for a second. Bro, that's so messed up. You want me to say something to them? No, don't make it worse for yourself. But Tyler, I need you to do me a huge favor. I need you to record everything they say about me for the rest of today. Can you do that? Yeah, absolutely. But what are you planning exactly? I'm not completely sure yet, but I'm done playing nice with people who treat me like garbage. See, here's what nobody in my family knew. When you run a successful construction business, you learn to be extremely careful about money trails and documentation. Every payment I'd made to them over the years was meticulously documented. Every loan that never got paid back. every emergency that turned out to be complete nonsense, every monthly payment I'd been making on Rachel's car, Mom's credit cards, even Jim's bar tabs at his regular hangout spot. I had detailed records of absolutely everything, but more than that, I had something they didn't know about. About a year ago, I'd gotten suspicious about where my money was actually going. Rachel kept asking for more and more, always with these urgent, sad stories about being broke, so I started tracking her social media more carefully. Turns out little Miss I Need Help with Rent Money was posting Instagram stories from expensive restaurants, showing off designer handbags, taking weekend trips to Miami and Las Vegas, all while crying to me about being financially struggling. So I did what any smart business owner would do. I started documenting everything systematically. Screenshots of her posts with timestamps, her Venmo transactions, showing expensive purchases, even location data, showing where she really was when she claimed to be working late and needed emergency money. I had a whole computer folder labeled family expenses that would make a forensic accountant weep tears of joy. But sitting in that car, I realized I had something even more valuable than financial records. I had 3 years of text messages, group chats, private conversations, and voicemails, all automatically saved to cloud storage. Messages like Rachel texting her friends about how easy it was to get money out of me. Mum complaining to her sister about how I was stingy even though I was paying her bills. Jim telling his poker buddies that he'd trained me to support the whole family financially. And then there were the recordings Tyler had been sending me over the months. Tyler's always been good with technology, and he'd started secretly recording family dinners because our relatives say insane things, and he thought it was hilarious. He'd send me clips of Mom talking trash about my business, or Rachel making fun of my apartment, or everyone laughing about how desperate I was for their approval. I thought it was just typical family teasing. Turns out it was actually evidence of their real feelings about me. I drove home and spent the rest of Thanksgiving weekend going through everything methodically, building a timeline cross-referencing dates and amounts, organizing it all into a comprehensive package. By Sunday evening, I had something beautiful, a complete financial audit, showing exactly how much money I'd given them over 3.5 years, $68,000 total, exactly how they'd spent it on luxury items and vacations, and exactly what they really thought about me the whole time. But I didn't send it immediately because I wanted to be strategic about this whole situation. First, I started making some phone calls. Remember that massive shopping complex contract I mentioned? Turns out the client was so impressed with my work that they wanted to refer me to 3 other major commercial projects. My construction business was about to explode in a way that would change my entire life. Second, I called my lawyer. Not for anything dramatic. I just wanted to make sure all my family's outstanding loans were properly documented as actual loans, not gifts. Turns out, when you write, I'll pay you back. I promise in a text message that's legally binding documentation. Third, I started making some strategic changes to my financial situation. When you have excellent credit and a 6-figure construction business, banks offer you some really interesting opportunities for business expansion and investment. By the time I was ready to execute this plan, I had leverage they couldn't even begin to imagine. The strategy was simple. I was going to show them exactly who they decided to throw away, and then I was going to show them what it really cost to cross someone who understood both money and long-term consequences. I waited until the first week of December to make my move. Why? Because that's when all their bills come due from their Thanksgiving spending spree, and when they start planning their expensive Christmas nonsense. Sure enough, my phone started buzzing with messages. First Rachel, then Mom, then even Jim, all suddenly very friendly, asking how I was doing, hoping we could put that Thanksgiving misunderstanding behind us. Rachel's text was particularly pathetic. "Hey big bro, hope you're not still upset about Turkey Day. You know how crazy holidays get with everyone. Anyway, my car payment is due and I'm a little short this month. Could you help your little sister out?" Mom's was more manipulative. Jake, honey. I've been thinking about Thanksgiving, and I feel terrible about the miscommunication. Jim was just stressed about hosting duties. Can we talk? Also, I'm having some trouble with the mortgage payment this month. Jim didn't even pretend to be subtle. Need to borrow $2,000 for Christmas presents. We'll pay back after New Year. I took screenshots of all these messages and added them to my evidence folder. Then I started phase 1 of my plan. Instead of ignoring them or telling them what I really thought, which is what they deserved, I played the concerned family member. I told Rachel I was worried about her financial management and wanted to help her get organized. I told Mum I thought we should all sit down and discuss family budgeting properly. I told Jim I had some investment opportunities he might be interested in hearing about. They ate it up completely. Suddenly, I was the golden child again, the responsible older brother, the successful son who was going to save them all from their financial problems. We arranged to meet at Mum's house that Saturday to talk about Christmas plans and proper budgeting. What they didn't know was that I'd invited some additional guests to this little family meeting. See, one of the benefits of running a successful construction business is that you meet a lot of interesting people in related fields, including a few who work in areas like debt collection, asset recovery, and financial consulting. Not because I needed their services personally, but because in the construction world, these guys are everywhere once you start paying attention. I'd mentioned my family situation to one of them, more as a frustrating story than anything else. And he'd given me some very interesting advice about debt collection and legal leverage. Nothing illegal or unethical, just very thorough and professional. So Saturday arrives. I show up at Mum's house with a professional briefcase and a thick folder of documents. They're all waiting for me when I arrive. Mom, Jim, Rachel, and surprise. Chad's there too because of course he is. Jake. Mom gives me this completely fake hug. I'm so glad we're doing this. Family needs to stick together through everything. Absolutely, I say, setting my briefcase on the dining room table with a satisfying thud. That's exactly what I want to discuss with everyone. Rachel bounces over excitedly. So are you going to help me get my finances organized? I've been thinking about what you said, and you're totally right. I need to be more responsible with money. Oh, we're definitely going to get organized, I tell her. Everyone, please sit down. They all settle around the table like eager students waiting for a lecture. Chad's trying to look involved and concerned, nodding along like he has any idea what's about to happen. I open my briefcase and pull out the thick folder. It lands on the table with a satisfying thud that makes everyone look curious and slightly nervous. So I spent some time going through our family's financial situation over the past few years. I begin calmly, and I discovered some very interesting patterns. Mum leans forward with fake enthusiasm. Oh, wonderful, honey. We really need your business expertise. For example, I continue opening the folder to reveal bank statements and printouts. Did you know that over the past 3.5 years, I've given this family exactly $68,247? They all exchange glances. Rachel laughs nervously. Wow, that seems like a lot when you add it all up like that. It is a substantial amount, I agree. Especially when you break down what it actually went toward. I start pulling out papers systematically. Bank statements, screenshots, receipts, everything organized chronologically. Rachel, your BMW payments, which I've been making for 18 months, $800. Your emergency rent money, which I now know went to a weekend in Las Vegas, $1,200. Your business investment money that you spent on designer handbags, $3,500. Her face is turning red. Jake, I can explain all of that. Mom, I continue without pausing. Your mortgage emergency payments made while you were actually current on your mortgage, $11,500. Your credit card payments, $8,900. Your cosmetic procedures that you told me were for medical reasons, $5,800. Mom's mouth is opening and closing silently. And Jim, I turn to my stepfather. Your investment opportunities that turned out to be poker games, $4,200. Your bar expenses that you claimed were business networking, $2,800. The room has gone completely silent. But here's my favorite part, I say, pulling out my phone. Tyler, you can come in now. The front door opens, and Tyler walks in looking uncomfortable but determined. In his hand is a small recording device. Tyler's been recording family conversations for months, I announce, just for entertainment at first. But it turns out you guys say some really interesting things when you think I'm not around to hear it. I press play on the recording device. Mom's voice fills the room. Jake is so pathetic. He thinks throwing money at us makes him important. He'd probably pay our rent forever if we just asked nicely enough. Then Rachel. I know, right? It's like having a personal bank account that thinks it's people. Chad's worth 10 of him. Then Jim. Kids desperate for approval. Makes it easy to get what we need from him. And finally, Chad. You guys have trained him perfectly. He's like a loyal dog. Keep him hungry for attention and he'll keep bringing you treats. The silence in the room is deafening. I let it hang there for a full 30 seconds before speaking again. So here's what's going to happen. I say, my voice perfectly calm and professional. You're going to pay me back. All of it. With interest. The explosion was immediate and spectacular. Rachel started crying. Not sad crying, but angry, frustrated crying. You recorded us. That's illegal. You can't do that to family. Actually, I said, pulling out another document. Tyler recorded you in his own home with his own equipment. Completely legal. And these conversations happened in areas where you had no reasonable expectation of privacy. My lawyer was very clear about that. Mom tried to take control of the situation. Jake, honey, this is just a big misunderstanding. You know we love you. We're family. Family forgives each other. Family, I repeated slowly. Right. Is that why you chose Chad over me at Thanksgiving? Is that why you've been calling me pathetic behind my back while I paid your bills for years? Jim stood up, trying to look intimidating. Now look here, you little sit down. My voice cut through his bluster like a knife. Something about my tone made him actually sit back down immediately. You don't get to talk anymore. You've been living off my construction money while calling me pathetic behind my back. You're done having opinions? I reached into my briefcase and pulled out more papers. Official-looking documents with legal letterhead. These are formal loan agreements. Every dollar you owe me documented with dates, amounts, and your own text messages acknowledging the debt. Chad, who'd been quiet this whole time, suddenly found his voice. Dude, this is really messed up. You're trying to destroy your own family over money. I turned to look at him. Really look at him. Unemployed loser wearing clothes that probably cost more than most people make in a week. Driving Rachel's BMW that I paid for. Living in an apartment I was subsidizing through Rachel. You're right, Chad. It is messed up. It's messed up that my family chose you over me. It's messed up that they've been using me as a bank account while laughing about it behind my back. It's messed up that you're sitting here acting like you have any right to an opinion about my family. I reached into my briefcase one final time, which brings me to you specifically, Chad. Did you know that your girlfriend's been telling people you're a successful entrepreneur, that you're building your brand and creating content full-time? His face went completely white. Funny thing about the internet. Everything leaves a trail. Your social media accounts that bought fake followers. Your business that's actually just a drop-shipping scam that's never made a single sale. Your unemployment benefits that you've been collecting while claiming to be self-employed. I slid a paper across to him. That's a report I had compiled about your online activities. Turns out, benefit fraud is a felony. Who would have thought? The room exploded again. Rachel screaming at me, Mom trying to calm everyone down, Jim threatening to throw me out, Chad looking like he was going to be sick. I stood up and closed my briefcase calmly. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. You have 30 days to begin repayment plans for everything you owe me. The loan documents specify minimum monthly payments and interest rates. We don't have that kind of money, Rachel screamed. Then you'll figure it out. Sell the BMW I've been paying for. Get a real job. Move out of the apartment I'm subsidizing. I don't care how you do it. And if we don't, Jim asked, trying to sound tough. I smiled for the first time that day. Then I moved to Plan B, which involves sending all of this information to some very interested parties. Your mortgage company, Rachel's landlord, the IRS, Chad's unemployment office. He doesn't have a probation officer, Rachel protested weakly. He will after I report the benefit fraud. Oh, and Mom, remember when you told the insurance company that your cosmetic procedures were medically necessary? That's insurance fraud, also a felony. The color drained from all their faces simultaneously. But it doesn't have to go that way. I continued. Pay me back according to the terms, and this all stays between us. Keep treating me like garbage, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of people you really are. I headed for the door, then turned back one final time. Oh, and you're not invited to Christmas at my place this year. Obviously, I walked out to the sound of Rachel screaming and Mum crying hysterically. Phase 2 was about to begin, and it was going to be even more devastating than Phase 1. Over the next few weeks, I watched my family's perfect little world start to fall apart, piece by piece, and honestly, it was absolutely beautiful to witness. Tyler kept me updated on the family group chat, which had turned into a 24/7 panic session. Mum was trying to organize some kind of intervention. Rachel was Googling things like how to sue family members, and Jim was apparently visiting his regular bar more frequently than usual. Chad had gone completely silent on social media, which made sense once I found out what happened to him. See, I hadn't been bluffing about the benefit fraud situation. A simple anonymous tip to the right government office, backed up with screenshots of his social media posts, claiming to be a successful entrepreneur, was all it took. Turns out, you can't collect unemployment while claiming to run a thriving business. Who could have predicted that his benefits got suspended pending a full investigation? Rachel was suddenly supporting a grown man with zero income and zero prospects, which put a real strain on their relationship, especially when she realized she couldn't afford to keep him around without my financial support. But the real domino that started the avalanche was Mom's mortgage situation. See, when I said I'd been helping with her mortgage payments, I wasn't being entirely accurate. I hadn't been helping. I'd been making the entire payments for 2 solid years. The house was in her name, but I was the one keeping her from losing it to the bank. When I stopped those payments, she lasted exactly 1 month before the bank started making very serious phone calls. That's when I got the first begging phone call. "Jake, honey, please. I know you're upset, but I could lose the house. Where am I supposed to go if that happens?" "I don't know, Mom." "Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided Chad was more family than I was." "That wasn't what happened. You're twisting everything that occurred." "Am I? Because I have you on recording saying exactly that?" She was crying now. Real tears, not the manipulative ones she usually used to get her way. "Please, baby, I'm your mother. I raised you from nothing. You can't just abandon me like this. Like you abandoned me at Thanksgiving. That was Jim's idea. I wanted you there the whole time, really, because I have you on tape saying you were glad I wasn't coming because it would cause less drama." Complete silence on her end. "The loan documents are very clear, Mom. You owe me $26,400. Start making payments according to the schedule, or I start making phone calls to very interested parties." She hung up on me. 2 days later, Rachel called me. "Jake, you have to stop this madness. Mom's having a complete breakdown. She hasn't eaten properly in 2 days. Maybe she should get a job and start acting like a responsible adult. She's 62 years old. Who's going to hire someone her age? That's not my problem anymore. Rachel, you made it very clear that I'm not really family to any of you. We never said that exactly. You literally did. I have multiple recordings." Rachel's voice got desperate and panicky. "Okay, fine. We messed up badly. We're sorry. We'll do better from now on. Just please don't destroy our lives over this. I'm not destroying anything, Rachel. I'm just not fixing your problems anymore. There's a significant difference. Jake, please. I'll break up with Chad immediately. I'll get a real job tomorrow. I'll pay you back every single penny. Just please stop this." And there it was, the first crack in their united front. "You'll break up with Chad." "Yes, if that's what it takes." "Interesting. So you'll throw him under the bus to save yourself, but you wouldn't stand up for me when he was talking trash about me at Thanksgiving." She was crying now too. That's different somehow. No, Rachel. It's exactly the same thing. You choose whoever's most useful to you at any given moment. Right now, that's me. Last month it was Chad. Jake, I'm begging you. You're begging me now, but 2 weeks ago, you were laughing about how pathetic I was. Funny how things change when you actually need something. I hung up on her, but the real turning point came when Jim called me. Jim, who never called me about anything, who barely acknowledged my existence unless he needed money for something. Jake. His voice was different, scared, broken. "We need to talk about what exactly, about making this right. About the family." "What family, Jim? You made it pretty clear I'm not part of it." "Look, I messed up terribly. We all messed up, but this has gone too far. Sandra's talking about she's not doing well, Jake. Really not doing well. For a second I almost felt bad. Almost. She's not doing well because she's finally facing real consequences for her actions. Maybe that's a good thing for once. She's your mother, for crying out loud. Is she? Because mothers usually don't choose their daughter's unemployed boyfriend over their son. Mothers usually don't laugh about their son being pathetic while he pays their bills." Jim was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was completely broken. "What do you want, Jake? What will it take to end this?" And that's when I knew I had them exactly where I wanted them. The setup was complete. Now came the final phase. Total victory. What do I want? I repeated Jim's question, leaning back in my office chair. Outside my window, I could see the construction site for the shopping complex I was building. My business was absolutely thriving. I had a beautiful office, and my family was finally learning what real consequences felt like. I want what I've always wanted, Jim. Respect. And since you can't seem to give me that voluntarily, I'm going to take it by force. Name your terms, he said quietly. Completely defeated. Full repayment of all loans with interest. Public apologies from each of you. And I mean public, not some private text message nonsense. And I want Chad completely gone from this family. Chad's already gone, Jim said quickly. Rachel broke up with him yesterday when his unemployment got cut off completely. Of course she did. Rachel never met a sinking ship she wouldn't abandon immediately. Good, but that's not nearly enough. Over the next week, I watched my plan reach its absolutely beautiful conclusion. Rachel, faced with losing her BMW in her apartment, got a job at a customer service call center, her first real job in 3 years. She had to sell most of her designer handbag collection to make her first loan payment to me. Mum put the house up for sale and moved in with her sister across town. She started working part-time at a department store, something she swore she'd never lower herself to do. Jim got a second job doing food delivery on weekends to help with their monthly payments to me. But the best part, they came crawling back to me for Christmas. I was spending Christmas Eve at my newly renovated house. Yeah, I'd upgraded big time since my business exploded. When my doorbell rang, I looked at the security camera and saw all 3 of them standing on my porch, looking like they'd been through absolute hell. I almost didn't let them in, but curiosity got the better of me. When I opened the door, they looked completely pathetic. Mom had aged 5 years in a single month. Rachel looked exhausted and desperate. Jim just looked utterly defeated. Jake, Mom started, her voice shaking uncontrollably. We came to apologize. Really, truly apologize. And to beg, Rachel added, tears streaming down her face. We're begging you to forgive us, please. I let them into my living room, but didn't offer them seats. They stood there like supplicants before a king. We made our first payments, Jim said, pulling out an envelope with shaking hands. Rachel's payment for the BMW, Sandra's payment for the mortgage help, and mine for the poker money. It's all there. I took the envelope but didn't bother counting it. This is just the beginning. You owe me over $68,000. We know, Mom said desperately. And we'll pay every single penny. But Jake, we need you. Need me. Rachel stepped forward, completely broken. The call center job doesn't pay enough to cover my rent and the loan payments. I'm going to lose my apartment, and I can't afford the storage unit for my belongings when the house sells, Mom added frantically. I don't know where I'm going to put 40 years of possessions. And Sandra's car broke down completely. Jim finished. We can't afford to fix it. She can't get to work without transportation. They all stared at me with desperate, pleading eyes. So you want me to help you? I said slowly, savoring every word. Yes, they said in perfect unison. After you humiliated me at Thanksgiving. Yes, after you chose Chad over me. Yes, after you laughed about how pathetic I was behind my back for years. Yes, Jake, please. Mom sobbed uncontrollably. I'm so sorry. We're all so sorry. We love you. You're our family. Please don't abandon us completely. I walked over to my kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. I took a long sip, letting them squirm in the silence. You know what the funny thing is? I finally said. If you'd just been decent to me from the beginning, none of this would have happened. If you'd treated me like family instead of a bank account. I would have kept helping you forever. We know, Rachel whispered. We're horrible people. We don't deserve your help, but we're completely desperate. I sat down my glass and looked at each of them carefully. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to keep making your loan payments on schedule. Every month, no excuses. In return, I'll help Rachel with her rent, but only the bare minimum, and only if she keeps her job. I'll help Mom with storage for her belongings, the necessities, not her collection of designer items. And I'll lend Jim money to fix the car to be repaid with interest. They all nodded frantically like bobblehead dolls, but I continued. There are conditions. First, no more family gatherings where I'm an afterthought. If you're planning something, you ask me first if I want to participate. Second, no more comments about my money, my business, or my lifestyle. Third, Chad. Or anyone like Chad never gets to meet this family again without my explicit approval. Yes, Mum said immediately. Anything you want. And finally, I said, walking over to my window and looking out at my construction site. You're going to remember this feeling, this desperation, this fear, this need to beg for help, because this is exactly how I felt every time you treated me like garbage. The only difference is, I actually have the power to help you. You just chose not to use yours. I turned back to face them. I'm not doing this because I forgive you. I'm doing this because I'm better than you are. I'm the kind of person who helps family even when they don't deserve it. You're the kind of people who choose unemployed losers over successful family members. Rachel was sobbing openly now. Jake, I'm so sorry. I was so incredibly stupid. Chad was using me and I was too dumb to see it. You were right about everything. I know I was right, Rachel. The question is whether you'll remember that the next time some loser starts whispering sweet things in your ear. I walked to my desk and wrote out 3 checks. Rent money for Rachel, storage money for Mom, car repair money for Jim. Merry Christmas, I said, handing them the checks. Consider these loans with interest. They thanked me over and over, promising to be better, swearing they'd learned their lesson, insisting they'd never take me for granted again. I showed them to the door and watched them leave.